What is up, everybody? Tiankum here with Soya Quilting. Now in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how you make this star flower quilt using a jelly roll by our good friends from Moda. Let's get started. Now before we dive on into the cutting instructions, let's talk about the quilt here behind me. Now it is going to be a simple construction quilt using, like I said, a Moda jelly roll, and also the pattern says that you can use a white jelly roll if you want to, but if you go down that route, you will still need about half of a yard for some of the bigger chunks of white that you need for the background prints. Now let's zoom in here to the quilt itself. This looks to be the block, but in reality, this is the block just repeated 4 times over. Now, as you can see here, 2.5 inch square, 2.5 inch square, 2.5 inch square, so on, so on. This right here is going to be like a 2.5 by 4-ish. And then a couple of half square triangles surrounding it. So it's a pretty simple construct here. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop open up my jelly roll here. I am using Fruit Loop by Basic Gray in today's video, which is different than the one behind me. And I'm gonna want a lot of contrast in our blocks today, because if you noticed, all of this is the same all the way around here, and they don't repeat. So you have, I think, 4 colors here. 1, 2, 3, 4 different colors that we get to play with. So you're gonna want to go ahead and separate out your jelly roll into sections of 4. That way you can get a really nice looking block on every single block. So I went ahead and made up a strip set of 4 here that will represent the 4 colors that I need for my block. Nothing too crazy there. And for today's tutorial, I'm going with the most bright and bold colors here. That way it's easier for you guys to see at home. I won't need this to the very end because this piece here makes up for some of these long borders here and some of the squares, along with the binding all the way around. So I won't need that to the very end of the quilt, but I just want to make sure that you guys know that it takes 2 jelly rolls and a little bit extra. So as far as the cutting instructions, very simply put, I'm going to go ahead and move most of my white over here because it is going to be used for the pieces here and my borders all the way around. So I won't need that until pretty much the very end. But what I do need from my white, a 4.5 inch strip, a 2.5 inch square, and then a couple extra 2.5 inch squares for the cornerstones there. In addition to that, I'm going to pair it off with one of these black pieces here because they take about the same measurements. This needs a couple 2.5 by 4.5 inch strips and a couple of 2.5 inch squares. Super simple, so I'm gonna go ahead and cut those now. And then this extra piece here is what makes up our scrappy border all the way around. So you're gonna go ahead and save this. At this moment, we've gone ahead and cut out these pieces here, and our cornerstones there. Now it's time to cut out a couple more of our little squares here. I don't need very much yellow. I'm putting my yellow in on these pieces here. So I need 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 2.5 inch squares. Super simple. Again, gonna be used for my scrappy border, or if you want to add in a little bit of yellow throughout, you could as well. I went ahead and cut out 10 of these because I was cutting in sets of 2, which is all I need for there. So we went ahead and cut out our little squares there. Now we need to cut out these squares. I'm just gonna pick a different color, which in this case, I'm gonna be using this beautiful red. I only need a handful of these ones. I wanna say it's a total of 8, 2, 4. So now at this point, it is time to do a little bit of sewing for our next piece. Now instead of cutting out little teeny squares and sewing these all together, it's way easier to do tube piecing. Now what tube piecing is I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna layer on top of it a white, and I'm gonna sew all the way down the length of this. In the pattern, it says to cut this thing directly in half at 21 inches, but I like to always check my jelly rolls to make sure I can get a good 21 inch on both sides. And it looks like I am good to do that. So I'm gonna cut this at 21 inches. I cut through both layers there. And then this one can make another set of the blue ones if I wanted to do that. Or you can use that to be the centers of something else. There's plenty of fabric here to do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this to the sewing machine and sew all the way down. And I'm sewing down both sides. Just like that. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a 45-degree triangle ruler or a strip ruler. Essentially speaking, this angle is 45 degrees. Every ruler on the planet has that line. This just makes it a little bit easier. And essentially how the lines work on this is that you line it up with whatever size you want, and you cut off both sides, and then when you open it up, it's a half square triangle. And I'm putting my line on the seam, so when I cut it, it'll be a true 2.5 inch cut. Cut there, and as you can see, I've got a 2.5 inch square, which is fantastic because that's what I need for my blocks. And now guys, I went ahead and made up 8 of these half square triangles. Now the way the pattern's written is to use up abundance of fabric, and you can make it pretty scrappy. So in this case, it had me cut my jelly roll in half, sew them, make half square triangles, which gives me this beautiful selection of half square triangles. But that's only half of the triangles that I'm going to need. So instead of making this uber scrappy and making it more like the one behind me, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the process to the other half of my jelly roll. Just like that, we've got our half square triangles. Now at this point, it is time to start assembly. Now we're going to start off with our 2 corner blocks here, this one and this one. And super simple, I'm going to need 1 black square, 1 black of the rectangle here, and 1 yellow. And that makes up that block. Easy enough, right sides together. Sew all the way down and open up that seam if you choose, or press to the dark side. Then from here, we're going to attach it just like so. Now, right sides together. I'm going to repeat that exact same block 4 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now on the opposite side, it's the exact same thing, but in our whites here. Got my 2 blocks here with my yellow on the corner there. Put those right sides together. Now, at this stage, I'm going to repeat this 3 more times, and then I'm also going to repeat this one 3 more times, and that will make up all of the pieces that we need for our outer corners here. The next thing is to make these pieces here, and they're exactly the same thing, they're just turned a direction. Now, what we're going to do here is I'm going to take one of my red pieces, set it right here, white piece here, and I want my half square triangles to point into that red piece, like so. Right sides together, I'm going to sew all the way down, and then I'm going to repeat this block 8 times. That one, right sides together. I'm going to open up that seam once more. And guys, just like that, easy little block to do. Now I'm going to go ahead and repeat this, like I said, 7 more times, so I have a total of 8 blocks, and then it'll be time to construct our quilt block. So now that we've gone ahead and made all of our blocks, we've got the ones that have the half square triangles, the black with yellow, white with yellow. We are ready to assemble. Super simple here. I'm going to take the black with the yellow pointing upwards. I'm going to take the white and yellow, and I'm going to point it facing the yellow points together, like so. And now I'm going to add my half square triangle blocks with the half square triangle portion of it. Super simple construction. They're essentially 4x4s. So these together, those together, and then the rows together. And I'm going to do this all in one big batch. And now it's time to finish off our rows here. I'm going to sew the bottom row to the top row to all 4 of them as well. So guys, we are right there, super close to finishing up this quilt block, but in this video I wanted to do something a little bit different than what you see here behind us, because simply put, all that's done here is that we're going to add in a sashing piece in between them and add in that square. But this is a larger quilt, right? It does make a larger quilt, so if you want to shrink that quilt just a little bit, what you can do is just sew these blocks directly together, and it will give you a nice star here. Also, you have orientations here that you can play with. Right, if we turn them inwards like this, it'll give you stars in the corner and then kind of the plus shape in the middle. So you have lots of options. So I'm going to just go ahead and sew these blocks together and finish off this quilt square. Final seam here to finish off this quilt block. And guys, just like that, our quilt block is complete. And obviously, it's got lots of pieces in it, right? But it's not a hard quilt to make. Half square triangles, and not very many of them to be honest. 2.5 inch squares and half square triangles is all you need to make this super dynamic block. And if you want to upscale it a little bit more, go ahead and throw that cornerstone into the middle, which gives it a whole different shape and look altogether. And with that, guys, if you liked this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and don't be afraid to share it with your friends. As always, down in the description below is a free PDF download of this pattern. And while you're down there, make sure you check out soyaquilting.com. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.